A new book is coming out that is all about many sailing adventures up through the Caribbean and beyond. In fact, the author's going to be swinging through central Queensland in a couple of weeks' time to talk about her adventures and putting it all down on paper. Regina Petra Meyer is your guest. She is from North Queensland. Her new book, Change of Course. Your guest in just a few minutes.
This is Paul Culliver on ABC Capricornia.
How do you love to set sail in the Capricornian waters and have a grand adventure around the Keppels, Whopper? Some pretty good waters to be explored up and down the North Queensland and Central Queensland coast. But imagine taking your boating skills a little bit further afield to the Caribbean. That's exactly what Regina Petra Meyer has done, and now she's written an incredible memoir, Change of Course, Sailing into Love and Adversity on Caribbean Shores. She's going to be doing some talks about the book in Yeppoon on Thursday the 28th of July and Gladstone on the 29th, and she joins me this morning on the line. Good morning to you, Regina.
Good morning, Paul.
Congratulations on the book. Maybe we should just take it back to, when did you first go sailing in your life?
Oh, that takes me way back. So I stepped my feet on a yacht first as about a 10-year-old when my father took me sailing. But of course, that was in Switzerland on a lake. But it sort of instilled in me the desire to venture further, and it took about another 20 years after that for me to actually realize my dream of sailing a big ocean.
So tell me, what was that step? Why did you decide to get involved in a sailing adventure on the Caribbean?
Look, there were several reasons for that. So one of them was really because I wanted to sail a big ocean. This has just always been a major dream of mine. And at the time, I was in a long-term relationship that was sort of, nearing its end. And we decided by taking a break, I could actually fulfill my dream because my partner at the time used to get terribly seasick. So what I did is I looked for the longest and biggest adventure that I could possibly fit into the time frame that I had available to me at the time.
And so what did you end up doing?
Well, I crewed on a yacht. I was living in South Australia at the time, and I crewed on a yacht in Antigua in the Caribbean. And the plan was to sail the yacht back all the way to Australia over a 3-month period. But of course, I went there and, the trip fell apart for various reasons. And I ended up stranded in the Caribbean.
Okay, wow. You can't just stop there, Regina. If you get stranded in the Caribbean, how does that even happen to you?
Well, there was some friction among some of the crew and the skipper, and they abandoned the trip at the last minute. And for me, what happened is when the trip fell apart, I had also fallen in love with a local man. So, I was in a big conundrum as to where actually my life was going to go from there on. So, of course, I couldn't just stay in the Caribbean, so I had to improvise. I crewed on another yacht, and I sailed across the Atlantic. Eventually, I returned to the Caribbean on another boat, and I took up residence in the Caribbean.
Okay, and did that love interest work out for you?
Well, it did at the time. Certain things are made to last and certain things are just for, a shorter period of time. I think it helped me to experience some great things. So I was living in a tiny community in very, very modest circumstances. And I was the only white resident in a local community. So, that was a great learning experience, and it really opened my eyes. The romance in the long term didn't, end up lasting, but I look back with only fond memories. It was just, all in all, it was a great adventure.
Mm. And so how long all up did you spend on the waters, on that sailboat?
So I ended up sailing the transatlantic, doing transatlantic passages twice. So I went from, let me think, I'm not very good with East and West. I went from the Caribbean to Europe, which would be west to east, on the first passage. And that took about 3 weeks, so 2 weeks from Antigua to the Azores and then another week to Ireland. And the other passage back also took about 3 weeks, but that was 3 weeks consecutively on a yacht.
Wow. Okay. I'm Regina. I'm amazed by you saying you have trouble with East and West and working on a sailboat. Was that ever a problem for you?
Well, luckily I wasn't the skipper, so I wasn't making decisions on compass.
Didn't matter.
Courses,
Didn't matter what direction.
That's right.
That's very funny. And so just to understand the sailboat that you were on, was there were you obviously your job was crewing on it, but was there what was the purpose of the boat existing? Was it a leisure vessel? Was it transporting something? What was the point of it all?
Oh, look, there's many, many different boats out there, and there's many different reasons for crewing. So the first boat that I initially crewed on was a privately owned boat, and the skipper simply needed some more hands on deck to take the boat from, potentially the Caribbean to Australia. Mm. The boat that I actually ended up sailing on, the first one, was with a professional skipper. So there is somewhere in the distance a wealthy owner that has a professional skipper on his yacht, and we were basically just hired to get the boat from A to B, so back into the Mediterranean.
Got it. You're hearing from Regina Petromaya this morning. She has authored a memoir, Change of Course, Sailing into Love and Adversity on Caribbean Shores, or Caribbean Shores. Did you say Caribbean? Because there's a lot of conjecture on this one, Regina.
Well, to be quite honest, I think people just pronounce it however they wish.
Okay,
that's my take on it anyway.
And so, having had this adventure, how did you come to the realization that you wanted to pen it in your memoir?
Well, the funny thing is, Paul, during the time when I was actually underway and living in Antigua especially, it was such a turbulent time. Every week something new happened. I had new challenges that I had to deal with. And I remember thinking at the time, I should really write it down. And it wasn't until a few years later where I actually sort of thought, I'm going to forget the little things if I don't actually write it down. So that was my first motivation in commencing to write the book. And once it was finished, I sort of looked at it and thought, why not publish it?
That's great. And you're living in North Queensland now?
Yeah, that's correct. I've been living in Cairns since 2008 with, lots of travels here and there.
Excellent. And you're going to be coming our way in just a couple of weeks' time. Yeppoon on the 28th of July at 2 p.m. And then Gladstone at the 29th at 1:30. People can learn more information about that. In fact, if they do want to know more, Regina, where should they go?
Well, they should contact the Yeppoon and Gladstone libraries. Perfect. And definitely book a seat because numbers are limited. So that would be great if they could do that. And I'm looking forward to a crowd that is interested in learning more about how to turn, your dream into a reality.
Love it. Regina, so good to speak to you. Congratulations on the book and